Welcome to What About Books / in 5 years podcast, whatever we're calling it. But this is week 3 on Atomic Habits by James Clear. Anybody tried to use any of the suggestions yet? Mike? Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay when I'm
Yeah.
talking? Okay. So I have a habit of going home, and this might be too much information, but I have a habit of going home from working 12, 15 hours, going straight into my island in my kitchen, taking off my shirt because I always have undershirt on, and I have some like workout shorts at the table at the island. So I change and I put my clothes there. And then the next day, it drives my wife bananas. So what I started doing now to try to change a habit is instead of just going in and going straight to the counter, I'm gonna go to my closet and do it that way because I've been doing it the same way all the time. And I called myself yesterday doing it again. So, but when I did it, I went to the closet. Then I couldn't find my keys. I couldn't find my wallet. I couldn't find anything because I changed that habit. But I'm working on it, because if you do
so you got to change that one.
repetitive-
You got to add add that habit's causing you to have a domino effect of what you got to do. Well, good.
And I was like, where did I leave everything? Where I know I had it, and it was just right here. And then I go tell her, did you move it again? I know you don't like when I do that, but why'd you move it? And it was me that moved it. So I was just trying to use the thing of the book to try to, change some stuff, small
Good.
things. Small things are what matters. You change those little small things and it can drive other things as well.
Absolutely. Scott, welcome.
Thanks. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Man, I was up at 5:01 getting after it, Danny. 5:01.
6 minutes earlier and you'd been up with me.
I know. I'm telling you. I'd like to say I set an alarm clock, but I didn't.
Oh, your knee hurting?
No, Jesus said it's time to get up.
Okay.
He
Well,
put
good.
stuff on my heart, and I was like, got up and I started writing my Christian leadership speech for the upcoming Tres Dias weekend. I'm one of the 15 speakers.
Well, cool. Any habit changes you've been working on?
Since I had my surgery, I haven't been able to do my morning push-ups and sit-ups routine, and I've been thinking about it every day when I brush my teeth. It bothers me that I can't do that, and I know it'll come back. But I've also been doing that Darren Hardy
Daily Darren?
the momentum challenge, the reading challenge you're doing right now, the book you guys finished.
Yeah. Compound effect.
Yeah, the compound effect. So I'm doing the 7-day, I think it is, reading challenge. And so I finished day 2 yesterday. And today I'm like asking myself, am I really going to start writing down everything? Pick one thing and write it down. And I looked and I don't have a notebook. I'm like, all right, I can put on my calendar, go buy a small notebook that fits in my little pant pocket. Start writing down every day. What is it that I'm putting in my mouth every day? That's what I'm going to start doing.
Yeah, that's one of the things he can really convict you on that thing right there. Just writing those little things down. Pretty amazing.
I really don't want to do it, but I'm like, can't complain unless I give it a try, right?
Yep. Gary, you getting it done?
Yeah, I am.
Anybody else try to instill a habit?
Well, not very successfully. However, my company has an app that's obviously with many companies, but it's called Limeade. And if you earn so many points, they give you a gift card. And it's like money laying on the table, right? So I missed the $50 from the first quarter and whatever it was for the second quarter, but they're doing a steps. If we can do so many steps, they're going to donate so much money to something. And, so another person on my team of workers decided to create a team. There are only 4 of us, but I have to log my steps now with them every day. And it's, I get points for logging my food, which I was already doing, but it's this sort of little reward system now to like Pavlovian. So it's an app on my phone, but my captain gets after me if I haven't logged in my steps. So, it's more,
So what's it called? Limeade?
Limeade, Limeade. And I've done, like Omada, which is like Noom with my last company, but this is not about food and diet. This is about everything, going and getting a well check. You get points for going to the dentist, for cleaning, you get points for taking a walk, whatever it is, and whatever your company kind of sets up with them. But it's an app called Limeade. And it's not really following his linking a habit, but because I'm now on a team with some people and it's a little bit more accountability to it. I was already doing the food, but there's a reward coming. If I hang in there, it's $100 gift card.
Cool.
Okay. And why would I want to let them keep the money? When I can do it?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, I've been adding what I've added, that stacking with two things. I mean, when I open up my computer, whether I open it up or I, gone to sleep because I've walked off, gone to an appointment, come back, that every time I open my computer, normal thing I go to is my email. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to my CRM first. And so I'm trying to drive myself into looking at my CRM more often. And when I bring up my browser for the first time, if I've shut it down that day, it goes to my CRM. But so I'm trying to, that habit stacking, I've added the CRM to go to it every time I sign into my computer. That's what I was trying to say. Anybody else? Well, we're on, just a quick recap, what Mr. Clear has been teaching us from chapter 1, a couple of quick highlights of the summary of habits or compound interest of self-improvement. Getting 1% better every day counts for a long run. Habits are a double-edged sword. Small changes often appear to make no difference until you cross a critical threshold. You do not rise to your level of goals, you fall to your level of systems. Gotten quite a few, had a couple of good conversations with people. I've had a little bit of criticism on a couple of Facebook and LinkedIn posts about that. It's been interesting. Some people are very, very passionate about goals, and I've had Gary's heard me, Herdy's heard me for years talk about growth over goals, and I'm real stingy about goals, and all that stuff in that first chapter just gave me a little bit of momentum to I know some people, everything's a goal, everything they do is a goal, and it just kind of it seems to be too much. Then chapter 2 we covered last week, there's 3 levels of change: outcome, process, and identity. And I've got a note here: who do I want to become? Become the better version of yourself requires you to continuously edit your beliefs to upgrade and expand your identity. I've got a note here about the gap between who I am and who I want to be. I've got a little diagram here. I think it says and who I think I am. So anyway, now this week is how to build better habits, the 4 simple steps. And who's got some takeaways from what he's teaching us here this week?
Well, Danny says that if you can't do the first 3 steps, which is cue, craving, and response, then you can't. All 4 will not occur.
Yeah.
which really means that if you did change your system, right, if you worked on your systems and not the goal, if you didn't get the first 3 steps of the habit integrated, then you would never reach the goal. That's what that told me.
Yeah, it says over on page 49, the response of the first 3, what you're referring to, delivers a reward. Rewards are the end goal of every habit. Whereas number 2, the third step, response, is the actual habit you perform. Then the reward is the end goal. So Q is noticing the habit. Craving is wanting the habit. My gym shut down Friday. Walked in for a little bit after 6 Friday morning, and Michelle said, "Danny, today's our last day." And let me tell you, I've had that. I'm surprised how much I'm not surprised, but how much I think about planning. It's just a habit to go to the gym. Now I can't go over there and hit those bags. So anything on pages, if you've got the paper book, pages 43, beginning of the chapter, 44, 45, why your brain builds habits.
Danny, just a quick point.
Yeah.
In business process improvement, that whole cycle, if you ever done any of that, many of them have, where it's called, one of the things you look at is to stop doing certain steps.
Yeah.
Like you've been doing something, you find out either it's redundant, not important anymore. You shouldn't be doing it at all because the other procedures have changed. And that's a big part of this queue, because you're getting ready to tee up, if you will, all the stuff you want to focus on. As businesses change, and as you change, there are things you may have done that no longer need to be there or need to take a different format. I think that's a really important step, because we wind up doing things. I've walked into businesses before as a consultant. I go, why are they doing that? When I ask the key people, they can't tell me. Well, probably then we're wasting a bunch of time. So, I just, as a part of that, when you're looking at it, if there's something you can say, do I need to do that any longer? It frees up a lot of time to focus on these, atomic habits.
Yeah. Now, he talks about that in the book. Is it this chapter he talks about that? Or I know he talks about it here in the book. That you made me think about something there. I'm experiencing that with something right now. I have been for a few months. I laid off somebody back in let them go back in April, moved part of our team, part of our ops into another group inside the company. And they're excellent. They're performing at a lot higher rate, but I still, I have a habit of, I find myself pausing or going to my email, see if there's something in ops I need to address, because of the former person that worked for me. I couldn't trust him to do it. And or he would wait for me anyway. So I still find myself doing that. So I'm going to have to, I hadn't thought about that, but that's he talks about that in the book, but great. That's yeah. Why do I keep doing that? I need to stop it. But anyway.
So, Danny, one of my takeaways actually is on page 46 when he says the conscious mind is the roadblock of our brain, because we know that we can process stuff at amazing amounts of speed, but we can't verbalize it, for example, or when you're writing something in an article, it takes 10 times as long as you can think it. So in a way, we get down to this whole thing of time management and a combination of effectiveness and efficiency, that we're striving to do these repetitive tasks without having to recreate the wheel. The old joke about the high I personality is they wake up in a new world every day. And so from that standpoint, we don't want to wake up in the new world every day. And quick comment before it slips my mind, heard he recommended a prospecting book last week. I've got a copy. The guy's got great feet on the street insight. And, I found myself slipping away into a digital marketing world when I should be spending a lot more time on the phone. And so that's a habit I'm changing this week. Thank you, Mr. Burke.
Is that the fanatical process?
Yeah.
Prospecting Jed Blunt? Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. 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 My team, we're living in that book. Yeah.
Hey, Danny, I think there's a getting into some habits here. So part of creating a new habit for me in my world of consulting is I have to really pay attention to the things that are on the horizon because of the quick changes, because of things that are that I have to research to keep up with. And the point to that is that I almost have to take notes and then sit down and decide, of those notes I've taken, which of those things am I really going to focus on and put into my system and test them. So sometimes I have to create habits to test things that don't lead to any results. And then sometimes I test things that lead to results that are least expected. And then I have to come up with a system to make it work. If that makes any sense at all, then good luck. But that's kind of my world. It's like Gary says, the digital part of life can actually ruin your systems and your processes, because people tend to think that that's a lazy way to market.
Well, that's what, Hardy, you're talking right at the bottom of page 44.
Right.
Like Thorndike's cat, you're just trying things out to see if it works.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you develop a habit and then you have to undo it because you realize it's not workable. But you have to test it to the final result. You have to make sure it goes, to use a lack of word, you have to make sure it's dead. You've exhausted it. Yeah, right. You can't, you didn't say, well, that's not going to work for me. You have to say, I'm going to test this till it doesn't work for me. Right. And that's a different habit.
Well, I mean, to Tom's point a while ago, I'm thinking about one time that I had somebody come to me, 12, 15 years ago. They came to me and they said, why in the world are we requiring this document? Do you have any idea? And it was holding up a file for moving into closing or to be funded or something. And I thought, what? And he said, yeah, we require this on every loan. So I pulled up, looked at it, and sure enough, it was in every file. So I went, huh. So
Was it the survey thing?
What's that?
Was it the 3-day review for survey or something?
No, it was, I don't remember what it was, but
Okay.
it was some, that one right there is an interesting one. So I went to Candy, my shipper, and I said, Candy, do you have to have this on every file? She says, no, but we get it. And I said, did you have to have it at one time? And she said, yeah, we had a file. It told me about a problem file that we had and we needed it. And it's a rare case, whatever it was, we need it. And so she told the underwriters and the closers about it, and they started requiring it on every loan. And it was a pain in the butt chasing it. We've been chasing it, turned out almost six months.
Wow.
That we did it, and we just had to stop what Tom was saying. There's some things something you need one time, you don't need every time. But
It was redundant. It was something that wasn't, it was a one-off.
right.
Yeah.
So
It's
Sometimes-
a special case problem and applied a general case solution, which reduced efficiency, made everybody work harder.
Yes, there you go.
No benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing I like about what Hurdy was saying is, in his own words, he was describing the value add that entrepreneurs bring to the marketplace, which is more rapid trial and error. And the best attempt at scale of that is Google saying, hey, just take 1 day a week of your time. And all Googlers work more than 40 hours, right? They're working 50 hours or 60 hours, but take 8 hours a week, call it 15%, and just do whatever you want. And out of that, they're hoping for creativity. And they've had success with that, right? Just letting people use their imagination and experiment. And how do you then, on the beginning part of this journey with, this author and the Hardy work, it's like, how do you just get your arms around what you're doing and make it more predictable for yourself? So you understand the inputs, you understand the outputs, and you understand what's happening in the middle, which brings peace, right? Brings peace and more confidence in what you're doing. But then Hurdy's taken it to the whole new level, which is like, yeah, I've got peace, I've got confidence, I've got a working system. It's all, I'm driving the ship and it's all good. Got my dials, got my readouts. But now how do I make it better? And that also casts a vision for me, probably in okay, I've got a new job. I'm running for school board. That's a whole new thing I haven't done before. And it's suddenly got all this work and I don't have systems for how to do all these different things. That now it's starting over a little bit and okay, getting my arms back around the inputs, the outputs, and how the stuff in the middle works. Yeah, we're always pursuing the change, right?
Yep. Guys, this whole thing around why, getting on page 44 and goes to the top of page 47 about why your brain builds habits is just, to me, intriguing. The whole thing around the conscious and the subconscious mind, and that part about without good, that everything about habits do not restrict freedom. In fact, the people who don't have habits handled are often the ones with the least amount of freedom. And then all of the withouts you've got there, you get about 4 withouts. And if you're always being forced to make decisions about simple tasks, when I should work out, where do I go to write, when do I pay bills, then you have less time for freedom. And, I've got, that's part of what's going on with me this week. I'm kind of yesterday morning, it was just, my dad would have called it the EBGBs. I had the EBGBs because I wasn't walking out the door at 6:15 to walk the half mile to the gym. And I was going, okay, well, I'm going to go to the other gym and lift weights. And I end up not doing anything. It was just, so I've got to readjust that. And it's building habits in the present allows you to do more of what you want in the future. Then we move into, who was that talking about? Hurdy. Did we lose Hurdy? We lost Hurdy. The science of how habits work, the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. Anything else on that other part?
So, question to the group. Does it always have to be a personal cue or a question? Can't you be like, you're a newbie in an industry or you're learning a skill set and somebody just teaches you this is the way you should execute this job, that sort of thing. So I know he has to define things and make it finite, but I'm just saying this, it's not always cue. Somebody may have answered the cue for you and taught it to you.
Yeah, the cue triggers your brain. He says you just speak to him. Let's look at what he says before we throw out our own opinions, maybe experience. But so the cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior.
So I'm in a new job and I had to be trained how to do things. And one of them is Medicare patients. So when we see Medicare patients, they do not need a prior authorization if they're fee for service. They go straight to buy and bill, whatever. So now when I see Medicare, I don't have to think. It's a habit. I know exactly what to do. But I borrowed that cue from somebody else who taught it to me in like a week. If that's kind of what you're asking about. So I learned a new habit in my process for work, but it was just taught to me. But it makes my life so much easier now. The only question I have to ask is it managed Medicare? Is it Medicare with TRICARE for life? I just have to ask a few questions. I still have to think, but the main idea of how it's going to work is already there because somebody taught me.
Precisely.
Okay. Just a
Maybe,
thought.
maybe playing wordsmith here, but did you learn a process? Did you learn a habit?
Well, that's a good question because I learned a process. You're right. But it's kind of that's a good question. Because it's more, yeah.
I the question, what's the difference between a process and a habit?
Yeah, I know. I'm stopping to go, wait a minute.
Well, he does address that in here.
Yeah, he does.
Here's the thing. I don't have to stop and think. And so if it's my unconscious already made the decision and I know what I'm doing, it's been habituated in my brain. Maybe the process habituated.
What I love about this whole, discussion of how the brain works is, it just reveals to me anyway, I see it and I'm like, God made an ordered universe and he made our minds ordered. And there's so much our minds have to do. He gave us these automatic subroutines to run automatically. And if those subroutines are set up for, things that thrive human life, then we see people thriving. And if those subroutines are set up and programmed and released for things that don't create thriving human life and environments, then we cause wreckage for ourselves and others. And I think life's the process of trying to figure that out and improve those sub-automated routines.
Beth, I just want to add to what you said. I've never been on a consulting project yet that I knew their system. I knew accounting systems, but not their system.
Right.
The quirk. So there's a learning curve. And so, the habits and processes, you're trying to hopefully get to people that are intelligent about their system, which is not always written down. You can do a better job and hopefully improve them. But when you walk in, it's your infancy stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go from cues here. We can come back to it.
If you see me on my phone, my book is on the phone. Sorry.
No, that's cool.
That.
The cravings. Yeah. And I've got my phone up here. 'Cause I'll do a word search for a word in Kindle. So let's go down to cravings for a minute. So we got cue, then a craving. The craving is the second step, the motivational force behind every habit. So I guess, and he said something, somebody said something, or I saw something here about, for a gambler, the sound of a slot machine can be a potent trigger that sparks an intensive wave of desire. Well, at lunch today, I'm up about 12 pounds from where I want to be. And I tested something the other day and wore a 20-pound weight vest. My wife said it looked like I had a bomb strapped to my chest, and surprised I didn't get arrested. And matter of fact, I left out with that thing on. I borrowed from a guy. And about 15 minutes later, she heard all these sirens. She figured they were coming for me, and she's looking for me on her find my phone out. But anyway, so anyway, I'm on the my daughter's got this. She's some kind of health weight loss coach, and so I'm doing this lean and green thing. So today at lunch, I fixed one, ordered, tasted real good, but I wanted some crackers. It's one of those foods that I normally would eat crackers, and with it, and I needed the crunch. Now, I have learned over the years that I just like the crunch. It's that trigger. I need that crunch, and so I ate some walnuts, which I'm not real wild about walnuts, but it satisfies the crunch. He says here, cues are meaningless until they're interpreted. The thoughts, feelings, emotions of the observer are what transforms a cue into a craving.
Well, I'm sure everybody's heard the old cliche that we're not willing to change until the pain of being the same exceeds the pain of change. I heard that 40 years ago.
I've never heard you say that before. Say it again, Gary.
You will not change until the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of change. No, the other way around. If the pain of staying the same is more painful than you changing,
yeah,
you'll have the cue to make the change.
Yeah.
So you keep butting your head against the proverbial brick wall, and then you just keep doing it over and over and over again. And there's the other cliche which says, if you're doing the same thing and expecting a different results, then you're dumber than you look.
And Danny, I would go on to say that a craving or a trigger can be more than one thing on the same habit.
Yeah. And my sweet tooth craving is what's been
ice cream.
Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah,
Ice cream.
White cake and ice cream.
Think ice cream.
Oh my gosh.
See, that's making you want to go to Wendy's as soon as we get off, isn't it? See, that's making you.
Well, I did that when I started walking a few years ago, and I decided I was going to go to Wendy's. I was going to get me a Frosty. So my wife was out of town. She called me.
So she did.
And she looks at me. She looked on the Find My Phone app. She said, "Why are you at Wendy's? It's a Saturday afternoon." I said, "I wanted a Frosty." She, "I thought you were going walking." So I did. It's about 2 miles to Wendy's. So I decided I'm going to walk to Wendy's and eat me a Frosty. And it was back in the early days. I'd like to have not made it home. Let's jump over to page 50 and the habit loop.
Yeah.
Kind of more of the same, but he kind of describes it a little bit different. Anybody got an example of something that you do and it's just out of habit, you do it and you didn't need to do it?
So you're describing from my recovery group that I used to teach, you're describing an addiction.
Yeah.
A loop is an addiction. And all 4 of those steps are occurring without even a thought. They're so ingrained in the person that it's just all 4 things just are a continuous loop. They never change. They never change. They never change. It almost has to be broken by some sort of intervention into the head, right? Something has to change completely in order to get out of that loop. That's how I picture it in my head.
Yeah, it's tough. It's real tough to break that loop.
And I would say the same thing for business habits. If we've done something I've done stuff since 2008, since I've been running my business, and I will tell you, you do get stuck in some things that are wasteful that you just have to decide, I don't want to do this anymore.
Hello, Missy here from.
Yep. Yeah, I've got an example of down on bottom page 51. Imagine what we're talking about here. Imagine walking to a dark room, flipping on the light switch. You perform this simple habit so many times it occurs without thinking. You proceed through all 4 stages in the fraction of a second. The urge to act strikes you without thinking. On a submarine, they have to, they call it blow the tanks. Every once in a while, the sewage tanks, you use that word, the sewage tanks, they have to be blown. So you're down at 400 feet and they pressurize that tank and then open a valve and it blows it out to sea. And while they're doing that, they put up these signs in the head, in the bathrooms, restrooms, that, you're forbidden to go past that because they don't want anybody opening any of the valve that on a commode on the submarines. It's a flapper valve. A flapper valve is, you've got a pipe. Well, flapper valve is sitting there and it turns sideways and it's closed. You pull a lever and it opens so there's the commode and flows down in there. You run some water and it flushes it. It's two different things. Well, you can go under the chain to the door, but beware if you don't want to pull that flapper valve. And so the idea that the flapper valve won't go through the whole, but there's a couple of things you do. So you put your hands basically behind your back so you don't reach out and pull the flapper valve. But inherently, somebody through habit, they get through using the bathroom and reach up and they pull it. Well, when they do, they've got 400 feet. There's a few thousand pounds of pressure that they're having to overtake to push the sewage into the ocean. Well, when you open that flapper valve, and guess where all that comes out? It comes up in your face and into the head, into the restroom. And it's just one of those trigger things. And we'd be out at sea for 10 weeks at a time. And at least once while we're out there, some idiot did it. And of course, we all laughed our butts off because he gets to clean it.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that you just absolutely do.
Danny, I run into this situation frequent enough, unfortunately, with people. I've got someone now, they're like the picture of the middle-class couple. And unfortunately, they haven't filed a return on 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a psychologist share with me, a client years ago, that, about the stage of grief. And he said, until they get mad, nothing happens. They're still in denial. They're not even angry yet. So it's like they know they need to do it, but it's become like this bad habit. They don't file and they don't file. And the really sad part is, I think some of these years that they have not filed, they have refunds and they can't get them back. There's a statute of limitations. And when you explain it to them, they look at you like you're nuts. Right, John? What do you mean? It's my money. Well, it used to be your money.
And what's sad is sometimes they don't even get mad. It's just like,
yeah, they're not mad yet. Yeah.
It's just
so I explained to them that there's a U.S. Supreme Court case with the votes 9-0 about statute of limitations. 9-0. How often do you get that? Supreme Court? Never. Okay. The point is, they've hurt themselves. I don't have a do-over, but they still will not file a return.
Right.
And so, it's just bad habits taking over. It's permeated their whole life. John said, it's really sad. And I'm not the counselor, but I've seen it too many times for that whole pattern. It's really tough.
It's unreal. It's just some attorneys, all this stuff. The money they leave on the table, but it's just like some years, 5-digit refunds they have given up, but other years they've got a 5-digit liability, so they can't use that to offset. It's just nuts.
Right. Yeah. So the point is that, those 5 stages, they need to start forming a good habit. And the first thing is just to file the most current return we have with the lowest balance due. I've got one of those. It's like they're frozen. So they could use these steps, but they're so deep in denial, which is the first stage of grief. I can't even get them to the angry stage.
It'll come. It'll come.
It'll come. But it's like, so maybe I just need to send them a copy of the book. I don't know.
Yeah, there's things we can do. Gary, you mentioned the pain a while ago, and Tom, you and John were just talking about. There's sometimes that there's I don't know if this is a good example of those two or not, but Tom, what you were talking about made me think about, I had a habit of speeding 30 years ago. I mean, I got 2 or 3 tickets a year. I tried everything. I tried, radar detectors screaming at me, to not speed. And I've really been working on not speeding. One day I got a ticket. I got pulled over speeding in Westlake. And I thought I was in a 30-mile-hour zone. I was in a 20, got pulled over. I was going about 32. And, but I didn't get a ticket. Guy let me go because my driver's license was expired. I thought that was pretty cool. He just let me go. He said, get your driver's license, get it fixed. He ran, I didn't have any warrants or anything. Everything was fine. He said, just go get this, take care of them. I'll let you go. Now I'm always real nice. Yes, sir. No, ma'am, whatever it is. About 30 days later, I got stopped again in Corsicana outside of Waco. Highway patrol, same thing. And he goes, just go ahead. Just go get your ticket. Just go get your driver's license. Let me go. No speeding ticket. I'm thinking, this works. So now I'm kind of afraid that I'm gonna get stopped and I need to go get my driver's license. I got to go to the driver's license office to get it done. Couldn't do it through the mail. This was, 30 years ago. Time went by and I slowed down. I didn't get any tickets. It actually happened third time up in Waco and Hewitt got pulled over and kind of like, but I was slowing down. I was afraid to get pulled over, all this. My wife got a phone call from State Farm and said, your husband doesn't have a driver's license. Well, sure I do. So I called a buddy of mine at DPS driver's license in Waco and said, Bobby, told him what's going on. He said, what's your driver's license number? And I told him. He said, no, it's not. And I said, I'm looking at it. He said, Danny, we gave that number to somebody else 6 months ago. Your driver's license has been expired for 5 years.
Shit.
You know what? That was 28 years, over 25 years ago, and I have not had a ticket since.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have to go. I lost my motorcycle license. I had to go retake the test the whole 9 yards, and up in Georgetown, I had to go through the whole driving test again. What are you looking at me like that for, Scott?
That was painful. Wow.
But anyway, I mean, it's one of those things that Gary, your thing earlier about the pain, but it did. And I knew it was slowing me down. That I was slowing down because of the fear of getting stopped and not having a driver's license. And anyway, so.
Well, I got a flip on the pain because Clear says the final step is your reward, right? And so you got the 4 laws, and then the 4th one is, making it fun, making it satisfying, a reward. And then sometimes when you're in a process, the reward is a long way out there. And so to the group, maybe Scott running for office, Hurdy's been in this business now 13, 14 years. Other people, Beth has been in sales. It takes a lot of effort sometimes before you get an order, and sometimes you never get an order.
Yep.
What's the answer to the satisfaction of going through the process? Do you have a mental exercise that you go through that this works for you? Are you convinced yourself that the process is going to pay off? Proverbial
Good. And I'll give you an example. So Square sent me a report the other day that since I started my classes and got them in order in January, I've raised close to $600. Now that's not a lot of money, but I had to prove the concept first that people would actually pay a small fee to come on for 2 hours and learn something they needed for their business. So there's a perfect example, but that reward did not come. I had to take a year to write the content and get it organized so I could teach it. And that was a lot of labor without any kind of compensation. So, that's a good example, Gary. Good example.
What spurred you on? Curiosity?
I wanted to prove, and here I am back to my athletic competitive days. I wanted to prove that you could actually take a very complicated subject and simplify it and make it easy for people to understand. That was my mission. And, Gary, I'm always focused on Google stuff. So if, Google's not easy to understand. So I wanted to make it real simple for people to know how to do certain things. That was my goal.
Okay.
And I had to put the system in place to make that happen. So I have 3 classes that I started, and that's all I've done so far. I've got 10 more to write, but it's going to take 6 months to write each class, quite frankly, and get it organized correctly. So that's the habit and the system I'm in right now.
So are they self-paced or you in personal attendance?
It's personal attendance, and then there's email support after.
Okay.
Guys, let's move over to page 52. Let's finish up.
Sorry about that.
No, that's real good. That's real good, Herdy. Let's talk about the, kind of look through those. Jump over to page 53, the top one. Problem phase, you hit a stumbling block on a project at work. Number 2, the craving, you feel stuck and want to relieve your frustration. What do? You pull out your phone and check social media. That satisfies the craving to feel relieved. Checking social media becomes associated with feeling stalled at work. Isn't that interesting? Anybody else ever done that? You find yourself on Facebook, you're not sure how you got there? God, how did that happen?
I go, Mark, I do it.
I will not click. I have, but I will not click. If you send me a YouTube between 8 and 6, I will not click on it because I'm afraid of where I'm going to end up in that world. Herdy sent me something the other day, and Herdy sends me stuff every once in a while, and he wants me to look at. And I won't click on it until later.
I know that.
A long time ago, one of our VPs said the life of a project starts up here and then it slowly starts to decline until the point where you're ready to quit one day. And then you finally see some light at the end of the tunnel, and then you start to slowly pick back up until you finish your project. But in high enthusiasm, low energy, this thing may not work, and then you grow and it finishes. So there's a dip. It's a recognized dip.
Yeah. Anybody else relate to any of this? I mean, I could talk about a couple more. Biting your nails, Gary.
Well,
Gary mentioned last week. I've used, that's Caroline Leaf. I used one of her methods. I've bit my nails ever since I can remember. And I've tried everything. I've tried hot sauce. I've tried everything. Tried to stop biting my nails, but I did it through the neural pathway type thing. But
the kid, I was going to say, Danny, the unfortunate thing about the kids today is that they are truly in the habit of this social media stuff, and they are addicted to the whatever goes with it. Our generation was lucky we played on playgrounds and went home and ate, but the kids today, this is the technology they were raised on, and that's all they do.
Yep.
I mean, their social skills lack, not online, but in person to person. And I think that's going to be a downfall for talk about bad habits.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I know some that have taken some of that and they've turned it.
Made a lot of money.
And made a lot of money. They've used it in their other skills and jobs. I've got a nephew that I literally thought he would be he couldn't get out of his bedroom from playing war games and Xbox, and he's a highly functioning in the finance world, and is just excellent at his job. He's also in the mortgage business. My brother's one of his boys, and just incredible at it. You know, Austin, some of the same stuff, and he can blow me away with some of the presentations he can use with some of our software. So I think it's just how they go about it. Then I know some that they're still living with their parents and still playing war games. Okay, at
Yeah.
5 years old.
I'll brag on my son since we're on that. He gave up Xbox when he moved off to college. He said, I'm not taking it with me. And he just stopped cold turkey. And I thought it was a real habit, right? But it wasn't. It was, I don't know, just sort of hanging with some people, I
Yep.
guess, whatever. And we don't do Facebook. He wanted me on Facebook like about 10th grade. So that's how I ended up with a Facebook account, so I could monitor his. And then, I think he's on Instagram a little bit, but like he went to Patagonia and like didn't take pictures. I mean, that he sent out to the world. He just sent a few in an email. It was just, or a text. It's just really interesting. And by the way, he was working as an IRS attorney. So he's not doing that right now, but he could recommend that firm he was working for. Because he was dealing with people who didn't file for 8 years and that kind of thing. Yep.
Yeah.
So, he says on page 54, as we wrap up here in the last 5 minutes, it would be irresponsible for me to claim that these 4 laws are an exhaustive framework for changing any human behavior, but I think they're close. If you've ever wondered, why don't I do what I say I'm going to do? Why don't I lose the weight or stop smoking or save for retirement or start that side business? Why do I say something's important but never seem to take time for it? These answers to these questions can be found somewhere in these 4 laws. Jumping down, every goal is doomed to fail if it goes against the grain of human nature. Your habits are shaped by the systems in your life. In the chapters that follow, we will discuss these laws one by one. And the good habits emerge naturally, and bad habits wither away. He's going to show us how you can use the system to use the laws to create a system.
One quick comment in here. Of course, he continues to build on these elementary skills as he goes through the book. And about 2/3 of the way through, he gets into your innate personality gifts and being able to work within those gifts because it's easier for you. That's what God gifted you to do. And so you'll find that the book adds on and builds on these building blocks that he's putting in place. And I agree with him 100%. The whole DISC personality profile, the Personality Plus by Sally Hogshead, what is it? Personality Plus or the 2.0 test. All those things I think are critical. And I would love for new kids coming out of high school and college to know these things about themselves so they don't launch a bunch of effort and education into the wrong field for themselves.
I didn't remember that about the book. I didn't remember he got into the personalities.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think I just gloss over.
It's like on page 220 or so.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So that's good. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Very good. Thank you, Danny.
All right.
Thanks, Shannon.
I'll see y'all later. Y'all have a great week.
Hey, thanks, Mike.
All right, take care.
Thanks again, Herdy. Really appreciate the book.